My name is Robert Hanashiro. My friends call me Bert, so if you see me around, you can call me Bert. But if you see my byline, this is Robert. I am currently a senior staff photographer at USA Today. I've been there for 35 years. I've been with the company for 45 years, so I've been around a while. And I've seen a lot of stuff. This is this is the finish line at short track speed skating on the final day of the Korea Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. And so if you guys see or involve, you're in a big scrum, there is no bigger scrum than the finish line at some big event like this, the Olympics. And this is pre-COVID too, by the way. So I've seen things, from Olympics all the way down to high school to Pee Wee League stuff. I started off in a small newspaper in Visalia, California, circulation of 17,000 when I left, and I went to USA Today with a circulation of 2.2 million. So I've basically seen small and large. And I've seen black and white, and I've seen transparency film, and then the color neg, and now digital, and now high resolution digital. So the changes that have been made within this industry, I've basically seen it all. So we're going to talk about sports photography. How many of you guys shoot sports, like a majority of your work is sports photography? And then the rest of you do some sports photography? And then like no sports photography. Okay, so we're going to talk, this is going to be, you guys that do a lot of sports photography, you might find this a little redundant or a little boring, but hopefully you get a little inspired. But this is kind of geared towards the people that, I do a soccer mom's presentation for a friend of mine at his store, so it's not that level. But we're going to talk a little bit about sports photography, some of the things that I do to keep myself fresh, some of the things I do to make sure that I get the pictures that I need for whoever it is I'm working for. Whether I'm working for a school, I do some work for a local college up where I live, or USA Today, or the picture agency, sports picture agency that USA Today has. If you ever see the bylines, USA Today Sports Images or Imagine, missing a vowel somewhere in there, IMAGN, that's basically USA Today Sports Images. So I've covered things like Simone Biles at the Summer Olympics in Brazil. She's making a comeback and is like the leading American, or probably the leading gymnast in the world right now. One of my all-time favorite. I grew up a San Francisco Giants fan, and so covering Barry Bonds as he marched on to break Babe Ruth's home run record. Wayne Gretzky breaking the all-time NHL scoring record at the old Great Western Forum. Talk about dark places. The Women's World Cup, Randy Chastain. I was on the opposite side when she hit her knees and then turned around and, swirled her jersey around her head. Several NBA finals, from several Michael Jordans to all of Kobe Bryant's. Major League Soccer, the Super Bowl. I threw this in here because I went out. I hate, I hate scrums. I hate Hail Mary things. I hate scrums. I don't like them. And I went out there. I drew the short straw and had the little white vest that the guy that got to go inside the ropes at the Super Bowl one year. And I said, I'm going to just do it my way. So I went there with a 51.8 or 51.4 and shot everything wide open. So if you look at this, everything is out of focus except for, it's hard to tell with these monitors. I wish it was a big screen, but his hands and the trophy are in focus, and everything else is from the shirt on back or soft. I like to look at things a little differently, do things a little differently, kind of, longer lenses, shorter lenses. I will talk a little bit more about it. We'll talk a little bit about remotes quickly, and I'll tell you, why I use remotes and maybe kind of a simple type of approach that I do. But shooting sports, whether or not it's the high school national championship game, or the college national championship game, or the Super Bowl, it's all sports. Rod has my buddy Rod Marr, who, if you guys saw him yesterday, has this great line, and I steal it all the time. Make the Big Ten where you are. And whether or not you're shooting at your small D2 school, D3 school, your NAIA school, or high school, football is football, baseball is baseball, basketball is basketball. It's up to you, right, to make it big time. And don't let the situation dictate whether or not it's big time or not. But sports also is not just about sports, in air quotes, okay? It can be about cultural or social issues. This is Colin Kaepernick, who caused quite a storm in his final year. This is him walking off the field in his final game in the NFL, and we were all backpedaling, and I lucked out and got in front of him when he pumped his fist as he was heading for the tunnel. Or covering the Lakers' first game back after the tragic death of Kobe Bryant. The Lakers had to cancel a couple of games, and when they came back, they had more than a moment. They had like 5 moments of silence to commemorate Kobe, and LeBron and the rest of the team were lined up on the baseline and just in tears. And I have to admit that I was in tears. I covered Kobe from when he started the Lakers, and then when he finished his career, I shot his final. One of my great pleasures is shooting Kobe Bryant's final game where he scored 70 against the Utah Jazz. And, I shot his portrait several times, and Kobe was just a wonderful guy to work with. So it was very tragic when he died. But another thing that's part of this, and I do a lot of this in other aspects of what I do for USA Today, is portrait photography. And if you want to increase, add more tools into your tool bag, more clubs into that golf bag, learn something, another skill, and you don't have to be Greg Heisler or Dan Winters. I'm certainly not. But learning good lighting skills, good portrait skills. You guys are at schools and work with student athletes for the most part. And I tell you, I envy that. I really, really do. Because you have a chance of having a lot of face time with these players. And you're going to be able to get them to do portraits, whether or not it's for maybe something for your SID or the school or whatever. You know what? Find a favorite player and just grab him and say, hey, would you like to have some pictures done? Just to learn not only the lighting skills, but also learn how to approach an athlete, how to work with an athlete. Because a lot of times, working with an athlete, knowing how to talk to them and having a shtick that you can use to, get their confidence, to let them photograph you, is very, very important. This is a picture of Dusty Baker, who at the time was the manager of the Cubs, and this was like a rush thing at the end of a spring training game in Arizona, and Dusty had been told, but by the PR guy that the USA was going to do a portrait, but nobody told him when or how or what, and I basically had to run out there after the game and say, hey, Dusty, I need 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. And as soon as the game was over, I'd gone out there and set up my Dynalight strobes, couple stands and lights, and then found a equipment guy gave me a bucket of balls to throw out there. And he was like in his office getting ready to go down over to, Don and Charlie's where they hang out after games for barbecue. And I just stood there, and he's like, he always has a toothpick in his mouth, and he was like, rolling toothpick around. He goes, yeah, I know about that. Okay. And I didn't dawdle, take a lot of time. I knew I only had a small window of time, and just made the picture. And this is one of these things where it's just a simple, very simple lighting, and I lucked out by having this Arizona sky, this late February, early March sky. I do a lot of work with Olympic athletes, and this was shot for a media day, okay, where they just shotgun in all these athletes. And this is Johnny Weir, like 3 or 4 time national figure skating champion. And he came out in his warm-ups, and his skates tied with the laces over his shoulders, and it just sucked, it was terrible. So I shot him posing with the skates, and shot the head shot, and shot kind of a full body thing. And he kind of like indicated that he was kind of bored with it. And I said, hey, you want to do something more? You want to do something, you got any ideas? He goes like, let me come back. I'm like, whenever you want. And he came back just in jeans and that fox stole. Just jumped around for like 5 minutes. And so sometimes you luck out. Sometimes you got a character like a Johnny Weir. If you know figure skating, you know Johnny, he's a character. So this is another media day. Just, you know, you got 90 seconds with some athlete, and I just brought just brought a bunch of USA balloons that I found at the grocery store on the way into the shoot. We did, we did 188 athletes, headshots, and then quote unquote portraits in 2.5 days. So it was a grind. And my favorite portrait of all time, Olympic portrait of all time, is we did this rush job of a boxer, Andre Ward. We did this series, we do the series called 10 to Watch. And before the Athens Olympics, I went around the country and photographed 12 athletes, because we weren't sure, a couple of them, we weren't sure they were going to make it, and posed them in traditional Greek, like, you know, robes and togas and that kind of stuff, and laurel wreaths. And the final one we wanted to shoot there in Athens, and Maurice Green, the sprinter, basically blew me off. And so USA Boxing came to my rescue and came up with said like, hey, we got a great guy, Andre Ward, he'd love to do it. And I'm like, sure, and where do you want to do it? And I just kind of laughed. I said, well, I'll do it at the Parthenon. And we ended up basically gonzoing this thing at the Parthenon. We just snuck up there and did it. And then, like, you know, and this is on the this is shot on 4x5. 4x5 on Polaroid black and white positive negative film. All of the things I did, all 12 shoots were done that way. I hadn't used a 4x5 since college, so it was kind of a challenge. The first 5 were really a challenge. And we snuck up there and did it, and then the cops and security, the Olympic security came and basically threw us out after like 10, I got 10 sheets off, so anyway. But that's kind of what I do. So let's talk about sports photography and how, whether or not you're somebody that does sports photography all the time, or you do it once in a while, or you never do it. Sports photography is about action, okay? Right. Rod talked about that earlier, you know, in his presentation. We'll get to that. This is Taekwondo during the Olympics. But sports photography is also about emotion, all right? This is April Ross after winning the gold medal at the Tokyo Olympics. Faces, all right? Never forget about faces. You know, he gave good face. I mean, I'm always talking about my good friend Brad Mangione, who shoots baseball. He just talks about good face all the time, which is easy to do when, you know, they're not wearing a helmet like in football. But this is a speed skater after she slipped and fell and was heading for the wall at, you know, 30 miles an hour. Faces. Beauty, okay? Sports photography is about beauty, all right? Things like figure skating are easy, but, you know, basketball has some beauty to it. It's just like dance, you know? And then also it's aesthetics, all right? So those 4 things make up sports photography. Okay, we all think about action, but there are a lot of other things that make up great sports photography. All right. What's my note here say? As part of that, okay, planning, knowledge, anticipation, experience, and most of all, desire. Do you want to go that extra step? All right, and we're going to talk about that. So. Why we love sports, all right? And the best way for me to describe why I love sports is through Hollywood.
Okay, guys, show us what you got.
Let's go, guys! Apollo can't believe it. What's the matter with you?
I'll make it.
All right. Finish him!
So who can name those 5, 6 movies? All right. Slapshot, Major League, Rocky, Hoosiers, Tin Cup, Karate Kid, Rudy, and The Natural. All right.
Miracle on Ice.
Yeah.
A league of her own. At that speech, you know.
Anyway, we've heard the term before and during this, workshop, magic light. Okay, when's magic light? A half hour before sunset. You get that golden light. It's called golden light. Okay, well, I call things in sports photography. Okay, the magic moment. Okay, peak action. Okay, that's part of the magic moment, right? When I first started out in sports photography in general, it was film, black and white film, Tri-X, manual focus. I had an FM2, Nikon FM2 that went like 3.5 frames a second, and pushing the film. If the old guys remember pushing the film, going to developing an Accufine or HC110 was my go-to thing. And the guys that were successful in that, your Walter Yosses, your Neil Lifers, your John McDonoughs, your John Beavers, that's like the all-star lineup card of Sports Illustrated. Those guys can pull focus like there's no tomorrow. There's this funny story, or not funny, there's this rumored story about SI lab guy running out with a roll of chrome from an Andy Haight shoot where he says, look at this. And he says he's got frames of the ball leaving the quarterback's hand, going through the air, and landing in the receiver's hand, all sharp, right? And there were guys that could do that, all right? I was pretty good at it. I'm not like Andy Haight, but I was pretty good about it. But now, all right, autofocus. I mean, that's probably extended my career a couple years. Probably extended my career a lot, all right? Autofocus. 120 frames a second. Big memory cards, okay? I mean, when we were filming, 36 frames, man, baby, that was it. And then you went bzzz, and had to rewind, and you had to put that film back in there, right? So now you have unlimited capacity. You just push the button and shoot 30 frames a second, 60 frames a second, 120 frames a second. So peak action all of a sudden becomes like this thing that maybe everybody can do, right? Well, I'll tell you what, even at 30 frames a second or 120 frames a second, man, there are little moments in between that are like the peak action, right? That just kind of like you miss, even at 60 frames a second. So anticipation, knowing the game, like I said earlier, is very, very, very important, okay? But getting these types of images is a lot easier now than it used to be because of autofocus and the technology. And as Joe McNally said, embrace the technology. A lot of guys are these old, curmudgeon-y guys, and like, I'm never going to use one of them mirrorless cameras. I'm going to use my Rolly 120 and shoot my 12 frames and develop it. And it's like, okay. So peak action is, that's kind of the king, right? And these are all fairly recent cameras and lenses, and guys jumping in the air, sliding across the grass, slam dunks, dives across the court, dives across the sand, dives across the water, dives across the ice, or dives in the pool, right? All right, all peak action. So there are other things besides peak action that goes into what I'm talking about, moments, okay? So having a frame, one frame, all right, that tells the story of the game, all right? Normally I'm one of these guys that loves like tight, clean backgrounds, but you know what? Look at those people in the background, I mean, all you guys are like me and you hate to see all of these boosters and fans on the sidelines cluttering it up, right? Well, this time it worked, shooting across with like a 400 or, 400 with a converter. When I first shot this, I thought, well, it's a nice dive, but, that background. And then when I got to the editing room and I saw that, I'm like, wow, telling the story, a simple picture of the San Diego Chargers quarterback, fumbling the ball. That was like the big thing of the game. Fumbles, rain, slippery, messy game. All right. Slide across home plate. in the World Baseball Classic, all right? The slide is kind of like, but the players in the background, that's what makes that moment, all right? During the pandemic, you had sports that were on hiatus for a long time, and then they came back. When they came back in LA, the high school football season had basically been canceled. And in the spring, the Pasadena Unified School District decided to let them have like a 4-game season, and they played them in a lot of the games in the Rose Bowl, 80,000 seat Rose Bowl. And so no fans, it was just players and coaches and a couple of parents that were had to be way off in the tunnel, and then a few photographers. And they let about 6 of those photographers in because they wanted to keep the side on. So how do you tell that story, all right? Same thing with baseball. Baseball came back from a hiatus, okay? They had fans, but they weren't real fans. So how do you show that? All right. I lucked out and got Josh Riddick from the Astros, robbing the A's of a home run during a playoff game. Or the classic, classic Rocky thing, where the defeated champion is on the ground. Or crossing the finish line. All right. That tells a story right there. Speed skating is a great sport to shoot. But it's basically the same thing over and over and over again until somebody slips and falls like that other frame I showed, right? But when you get across the finish line and these guys are going 30, 40 miles an hour across the finish line and they for 1 second realize that they've won, that's the moment, okay? Sir Isaac Newton's third law states, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, okay? Bert's theory of sports action. All right. For every action, there could be an even cooler reaction. All right. NC2A playoff game. Anybody from University of Arizona here or Ohio State? No? Yeah? No? No. 3-pointer, time runs out. It's kind of a boring picture. I was kind of hoping that the team in the background would be up in the air, and then shoots a 3-pointer, and then boom, right? The reaction. Shot, reaction. All right? Slam dunk, reaction. Game-winning field goal as time runs out. Yeah, it's kind of, field goals are like the most boring thing to shoot in football. I don't know. Hey, Rod probably, has shot it a million times and makes 50 great pictures of every, kick there is. But you keep going, and then you find the losing team walking across, the winning team celebrating. This is like the ultimate kind of action-reaction. Before the All-Star game in LA a couple of years ago, everybody was all up in arms about, Clayton Kershaw was going to face the leadoff batter for the American League, Shohei Ohtani. And so, this was the thing. And everybody on the first base and third base side, they're having to shoot wide because to kind of you had to get both of them in the frame. So I'll talk about this a little later. I love shooting a lot of sports overhead and high up, or in baseball out in the outfield. And the only way to compress the two was to shoot it from the outfield. So you have Clayton Kershaw throwing the first pitch of the All-Star game. Shohei Ohtani basically just ripping the crap out of the ball. Reacts with a smile on his face. And then Clayton Kershaw saying, "Oh my God." So, horse racing, a really cool sport to shoot. If you got a horse racing track in your town or near your town, go check it out. Contact the marketing and PR people and see about getting in there. This was a nice frame because of the cloudy skies, but what tells the story really is, Kent DeSormo, Hall of Fame winning, Hall of Fame jockey. Celebrating at the across the finish line. Excuse me. But getting the jube and the dejection, that's one of my friends at USA Today, the jube and the dejection in one frame. Well, that's Nirvana right there. All right, Oregon player celebrating, USC player going oh man, I got beat, and then there is the referee signaling touchdown. Again, faces. All right. Tell the story. Let's tell the story. Center field again. I just love shooting baseball from the outfield. We sit out there with a 600 and a converter, and it's just the greatest thing in the world. But sometimes that reaction, okay, isn't as overt, you know, like the big smile after the slam dunk or the raising of the arms. I mean, just this is LeBron after getting called for a foul late in the game. Sometimes the reaction is subtle, okay? Again, like this is from a high school championship game in Orange County. The fans, you know, in the background, is telling the story. Same thing here, you know, a little fan celebrating as the Ducks celebrate a goal during the Stanley Cup a few years ago. So what I'm telling you, all of that I just went through in like 8 minutes, is what I call shoot through the play. Okay, Rod talked about that a little bit last night or a couple days ago, or yesterday, and about shooting and seeing the action and then chimping. You try not to chimp. Okay, and so I call it shoot through the play.
Garrett trying to send game number 4 into the 14th. Three-two. Ground ball, base hit. Machado comes to the plate. Throw by Yelich. Dodgers win it. Series tied. 2-2.
All right, so I was there shooting from an elevated position that I always request, and so what tells the story here? Okay, swinging bat is always kind of a dull thing. Okay, well now we're getting there. Cody Bellinger, knowing that he's won the game, celebrates by pointing his finger in the air. Machado rounding the bases, and then again the players in the background celebrating. He scores the winning run, and you got the dejection from the pitcher, from the Milwaukee pitcher, all right? And then celebration. So, I don't understand the pulling this uniform off. That was just kind of weird. So, anyway, this is everything I shot of that sequence. 10 seconds, all right? Or 9 or 10 seconds. This is every frame. 600 millimeter. I think it was a Nikon D500, if I'm guessing, but this is every frame. Now look at that. What's the deal there, man? So anyway, so I shoot through the play. All right, play's not over as soon as the bat hits the ball, or the player catches the touchdown in the end zone, or the fingers go off the rim on a slam dunk. Okay, so shoot through the play and don't chimp. Okay. Another thing to kind of help you along the way, or if you're in a rut, okay, and I'm in a rut a lot. What I do is I find the guy. Okay, I'll concentrate on one player, and every team has the guy. All right, whether it's the superstar or somebody else. I'm looking for the guy that is like the spark plug, the guy off the bench, the guy that high fives everybody. May not play a lot, may not start, probably doesn't start, but he's the guy. And for a couple of years with the Lakers and the Clippers, the guy was your classic journeyman NBA player. He's been with 6 or 7 teams in 10 years. I mean, that's like getting traded or released every year and a half, okay? And his name was Montrezl Harrell, all right? This guy was something else. I just loved watching this guy play, all right? And as my good friend Brad would say, he gives good face, all right? Look at that, all right? Always plays to the crowd, all right? Always plays to the crowd. Plays with the photographers. Is an exciting player. He's an inside player, so he's banging around in the inside, dives around on the floor, not afraid to defend the bucket, and he's always the guy high-fiving other players, all right, and yelling at referees. So there's always one guy on whatever team you have, whatever team you're covering, whether it's softball or football or basketball, especially basketball. There's the guy, okay? One more. The guy for the U.S. national volleyball team is a guy by the name of Eric Shoji, all right? Littlest guy on the floor, all right? Everybody else is like 6'9", 6'10" giants, and this is the little guy on the floor. And he is just the most excitable dude you'll ever see on the floor. He's a defensive player, defensive specialist, so he's always diving around on the floor, returning the ball. But the one thing about Eric is that he's always celebrating, yelling, jubing with his, with his teammates. Always gives good face. So it's not just basketball or football or basketball where, the guy, there's the guy, all right? Like he's always the first guy when one of his teammates is on the floor to come over to see if he's doing okay or to help him up, right? He's always diving around the floor, always giving good face, and always just celebrating. I mean, that's, you've got to have one. So, that could be a little picture story for yourself, a little challenge, but if you're in a rut, you're not getting things in focus, you're not finding the action, find the guy, all right? Have no fear, all right? Several little parts about have no fear, all right? I talked a little bit about shooting from the outfield. Get out of your comfortable spot, okay? You guys probably shoot from the same spot all the time, right? Especially basketball and baseball. So like I said, I like to shoot from the outfield, all right? Love it. I volunteer for it. Other guys will bitch like crazy if they got it. So I'll take it, all right? And that's because you get pictures like this, all right? Different pictures. Pictures you don't see all the time in the regular season, all right? Look real careful at that picture. Who is in the right bottom of that picture? Kobe Bryant, celebrating Yasiel Puig hitting a game-winning home run in the playoffs, all right? So the usual second base play looks a little different from the outfield. And then you get stuff like this. Climbing overhead, all right? Look for like something in the press box maybe from baseball. I always shoot the Rose Bowl from the elevated position. My wife Deanna and I are in like this little portal above one of the sections, in the top of the first row of seats in the Rose Bowl. But you just get a different look at things, all right? During the pandemic, we can only shoot football from an elevated position, and I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. It's cleaner. It's another thing about shooting overhead. It's cleaner, all right? Basketball, you can use a little bit longer lens shooting overhead. I think this is a 400. This is like with a 300. And it just cleans up the background. We're running out of time here. We'll go last one, okay? Tight is right, okay? So, no fear, all right? I would often go out to baseball and shoot with like an 800 millimeter or a 600 with an extender or something like that, just to get something a little different and challenge myself. Your hit rate, those bloggers love that word, hit rate. It's not going to be real big. I mean, there may not be any plays at all at the bases that you're looking at, or you may not get the focus right. But challenge yourself. Baseball be kind of tough. This is second base, so a little bit easier. Or volleyball. This is beach volleyball, or regular volleyball would, indoor volleyball. 6-man would do the same thing. Is just concentrate at hands at the net. All right. Or skates, on speed skating. During basketball, I'd go out and use a 70 to 200, and I would basically tape it at 200 underneath the basket just to get, like something different. I wouldn't do it the entire game, but, for a quarter, it's kind of fun. And then you come up with a picture like this. Or taking a 200 to 500 and using it at 500 millimeters to get something like this. All right? Same here, just pre-focused on the bars at the U.S. Championships. So I think we're running out of time. So why don't I open it up to some really quick questions? None? Yes, sir.
Where do you look? What's your go-to place for seeing the best of the best sports photography on the road?
I'm lucky. And I live in Los Angeles, and I happen to be friends with two of the best sports photographers I know. A guy by the name of Wally Scally from the Los Angeles Times. All right, look at his Instagram, do a Google search. Wally, Skalij, okay? And another one who shoots probably the most sports of any photographer I know on a daily basis. That's all he does for his newspaper, the LA Daily News, Keith Birmingham. And look at his stuff. I mean, you know, he shoots it every day, literally every day, and I don't know how he keeps motivated. I could not do that. I'm trying to think of another person. I would definitely start with those two. You know, and unfortunately, Sports Illustrated is kind of, you know, gone down, and used to be before. You know, the John McDonoughs and John Beavers and Peter Reed Millers of the world were the guys that I looked up to. But unfortunately, you know, Sports Illustrated is not what it used to be.
There are several Keith Birminghams.
Keith Birmingham. Oh. Shoot me an email. I'll give you a link. Yes.
Would you ever suggest shooting a game with a prime or fast?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. I would go. You know what? I would go out there with, like, you know, if I had one. I'm going to have one sooner or later. I'd go out there with like a 135. You know, at the baseline, and just see. You know. Matt Brown and I did something weird many years ago with a little tiny workshop we did. We had a little workshop at a football game, and we had lenses that we brought to the game, and we put it in a hat, and we drew out what lens we would use for that quarter. Remember that? And
Gave me a 16 and 35, and I had to shoot football with it.
yeah, there you go. See, just shoot football with 63. I luckily drew a 600, and then in one quarter I drew like a 50. And so I'm just basically shooting like the trainers taping up people on the sideline. So we didn't have a little, you know, restriction on what you could shoot with that lens. But, you know, it was like 14 all the way up to 600. And, you know, the other, you know, basically just drew it out of a hat. And it was like, oh my God, you know, 14 millimeter. I only shoot football with 14 millimeter. But no, that's challenging yourself, okay? Whether or not you have a 135 or you go out there and do what I did with the Zoom, where I taped it at 200 for a while. Now, you know, sometimes a prime is the only way to go if you're in like some crappy gym where you need 1.8. So, you know, you can shoot with an 85 1.8 or a 200 1.8. But yeah, you know, that's just challenging yourself, period. That's all you need to do, is challenge yourself.
I love the 35 1.4, but my focus is...
You know what, let me show you some wide angle stuff real quick, okay? That's like a 24, but that's not action. Touchdown in the end zone at the LA Coliseum, you know, with like a 24, all right? Colin Kaepernick scoring during an NFC Championship game, just like with a 35. Let's see, where is it? No. Another thing to think about on primes is, like, if you want to do remotes. I didn't get a chance to show much. Well, these are remotes right here, okay? These are all remotes. One thing I'll tell you about remotes real quick is I don't like doing the straight down overhead remote like that. I get the willies just trying to put up 300 or 400 straight down. I mean, I'm just, even though I you know, if anybody saw me do it, I put more chains on the safety chains on it than you can imagine. So I don't do it very often, like never. Same with glass remotes. The remote that I do, okay, this will be the last thing we talk about. The easy thing to do for a remote, okay, if you shoot basketball or you shoot, what else would be good? Volleyball, okay, is what it's called a floor remote, okay? All you need is like a wide angle, 35, 24. I think this is a 35, this one at Kobe. This is a 28, okay? This is from the side, underneath the press table, shooting across the basket. This is like a 85 maybe, all right? This is like a 24, all right? So the floor remote is great because you don't generally have to get permission to put it up like you would with an overhead remote or a glass remote or even a post remote these days. They're going to want you to do, you know, say like, hey, you know, you need to get permission. And you got to have, and the other thing about doing remotes in dangerous places is that you got to come up with a proof of insurance. So if you're not insured for like $5 million or something like that and bring them the certificate, they're not going to let you put up a remote. The floor remote, which is right near me, these floor remotes are right, you know, not that one, but like this is right near my foot, all right? And I'll either trip it by just a hand button or I'll have it plugged into another camera and it'll fire at the same time as my handheld camera. So I would say if you're gonna, you know, this is like a 400 at third base, all right? That's like an 85 with a zoom though. But if you are in fear or don't have the equipment or like pocket wizards or things like that, you could hardwire a floor remote very, very, very easily. And if you don't know how or you want to know how, just email me, you know. Where's my email address? There you go. Get all the way to the end. This is a portrait shoot, after a portrait shoot I did with Asia Wilson, probably the best player in the WNBA right now. Wonderful person, great player, great person to photograph. And I shot her last Thursday in Las Vegas. And I'll tell you right now, that is probably my final assignment for USA Today, because I turned in my resignation right after that. I've been with USA Today for 35 years. I've been with the company for 45. So it was time for me to kind of move on and be my own boss for a while. The one person that I have to thank, besides all of you people for being here and thanking the organization, is my wife, Deanna. She's been my... She's been my partner and confidant, and for a long time. We met in college, so we've been a long time. So anyway, here's my email address. Okay, Robert Hanashiro, no periods or anything like that, gmail.com. My workshops, which we will start up soon. www.sportsshooteracademy.com, sports shooter with 2 S's. A lot of videos and a lot of galleries and photos in there, and information about the workshop. Again, thank you guys so much. We didn't have a lot of time to go through everything. Please write down that email address. If you need anything, you need some advice on something, like the remote thing I was talking about, or talking about using prime lenses, shoot me an email. Then we can go back and forth on email, or I can give you a call. So anyway, again, thank you guys for having me here. This has been a wonderful experience for me.